Everyone thinks the green rain is all about moss and mixed seeds, but I think we've all been overlooking something much better. Today I'm attempting to beat Stardew Valley using only FIDDLEHEAD ferns. Hey everyone, my name is Extreme, and in this challenge every single coin I earn has to come from FIDDLEHEAD ferns or artisan goods made from FIDDLEHEAD ferns, one of the most overlooked seasonal items in Stardew Valley, which means I somehow need to earn 140,000 gold to complete the Joja route, and to make things even more challenging I have to do it within the first year. The biggest problem, we can't even get our first FIDDLEHEAD fern until summer. So if you enjoy chaotic, unusual Stardew challenges built around overlooked mechanics, grab a snack, get comfy, and let's jump in. I started by creating my character, named the farm Mossy Seeds Farm, picked this cat, and chose the forest farm since I'll need a lot of mixed seeds and fiber for farming XP and tree fertilizer respectively. The run started with clearing out the farm and planting the 15 parsnip seeds. I also kept as many weeds intact as possible so they could spread and eventually turned into special weeds, the ones that always drop mixed seeds. That way I can collect way more mixed seeds in summer. Just like most of these runs, the preserves jar and keg are the only processing machines that can convert our target crop into artisan goods, pickled FIDDLEHEAD fern and FIDDLEHEAD fern juice. So here's the first plan. Game plan 1. Unlock the preserves jar recipe. For that I need farming level 4. Since FIDDLEHEAD fern is completely a forage item and my starting gold is limited, I'm relying on summer mix seeds for most of that farming XP, but at the same time I also need to start gathering resources early so I can craft those processing machines in bulk later. So from day 1 to day 4 I focused almost entirely on chopping trees, and that led me to hitting foraging level 1 on day 1, level 2 on day 2, level 3 on day 3, and level 4 on day 4. Now foraging levels are extremely important for the next plan. Game plan 2. Unlock the tree fertilizer recipe. For that I need foraging level 7. Moving on day 5 I harvested the parsnips. Then with the 500 gold I had, I bought 25 more parsnip seeds and planted all of them. The reason I specifically chose parsnips is because they give the highest amount of farming XP for just 500 gold. 25 parsnips equals 200 farming XP, while other crops give less. The mines also opened that same day, so I immediately started grinding there, and by the next day I had already reached floor 50, which means I now had access to iron ore. The next 2 days were filled with chopping trees. I also got this pretty cool costume, or actually no costume, those are totally my real muscles by the way. And during all that chopping I reached foraging level 5 and chose the forester profession since I'm going to need an absolutely insane amount of wood throughout this challenge. Day 9 I harvested the parsnips, but unfortunately still no farming level up. After that I shifted focus toward collecting iron and copper for future processing machines and sprinklers, and the next 3 days were basically just that. I was also passing out on the ground constantly since I had 0 gold and literally no reason to care about reaching bed on time. On day 13 I reached floor 70 in the mines. It was also the egg festival, but honestly I don't really care about festival in this run. Day 15 I harvested 3 carrots, which finally got me to farming level 2, unlocking the sprinkler recipe, and sprinklers are going to be extremely important once summer starts. I also hit foraging level 6 that same day. Just one more level left for tree fertilizer. Most of my days at this point were spent doing one of 3 things: making progress in the mines, collecting ores, or chopping down trees. On day 20 I adopted the cat and named it Larry. The farm was already getting heavily covered with weeds and special weeds. That day I also collected more stone and copper, and at this point I had over 100 copper bars sitting inside a chest. I kept the grind going, and on day 24 while chopping trees I finally got the last foraging level I needed. I also accidentally entered the flower dance, and yeah, no way I'm dancing with Penny. And you might be wondering, if I already have this much wood and copper, why am I not crafting tappers for oak resin yet? I'm obviously going to need a lot of oak resins for kegs, right? Well, there are no fully grown oak trees left anymore. Yeah, earlier I used almost all the acorns for field snacks. I did plant a few oak trees over here and here, but they'll take forever to grow naturally, and that's exactly why I needed tree fertilizers so badly, which I can finally start crafting tomorrow. So I reached foraging level 7 and unlocked the tree fertilizer recipe, which means game plan 2 is officially complete. The next day I fertilized every oak tree I had, both inside and outside of the farm. Before we continue, quick reminder, if you're enjoying the video, please consider subscribing. The support on the previous video was insane, but I also noticed that 83% of viewers still weren't subscribed. And the funny thing is, if only 5% of those people subscribed, we would have already crossed 1000 subscribers by now. So if you have been watching the videos regularly and enjoying them, subscribing genuinely helps a lot. And let's set a like goal of 100 likes. And now let's skip straight to day 28, the final day of spring. Honestly, I think spring went really well overall. Right now I have over 5000 wood, resources for sprinklers, processing machines and tappers, a farm completely filled with spreading weeds, and 24 mixed seeds stored inside the chest. The foundation is solid. So let's end the season here because there's still a lot of work waiting for us in summer. Summer is here. I started the season by cutting down all the weeds on the farm. One of my biggest priorities this season was gaining a lot more farming levels so I could unlock the processing machines. Right now my entire plan revolves around green rain because green rain is the only way to get mossy seeds, and mossy seeds are going to be the key ingredient for farming fiddlehead ferns later. Hey folks, editing extreme here. I just want to mention that fiddlehead ferns can also be foraged from the secret woods during summer, but while recording this video I completely forgot about that, so you won't hear me mentioning it anywhere during the gameplay. The farming method is still far more reliable overall, but foraging definitely could have helped me earn a bit of extra gold. But anyway, back to the gameplay. After cutting all the weeds, I ended up with 101 mixed seeds and 190 fiber. That brought my total mixed seeds up to 125, so I crafted 35 sprinklers. I actually already had the resources for quality sprinklers too, but the recipe requires farming level 6, which I was nowhere close to yet. So I planted everything and watered all of it manually. The next day I crafted some tappers, 35 of them to be exact, and started placing them on oak trees. Those tappers completely drained most of my copper bars, so I immediately went back to the mines to collect more copper. I was also collecting fiber along the way since that's needed for tree fertilizer. On day 4 I collected over 900 wood in a single day. Day 5 the wheat was ready. Unfortunately, still no farming level up. I planted summer squash seeds, more mixed seeds and mixed flower seeds in the empty spaces. Meanwhile, the oak resin preparations were continuing in the background. Then I crafted 8 charcoal kilns so I could start converting wood into coal because I was eventually going to need a ridiculous amount of coal for preserves jars. But while doing that, something really weird happened. While placing the kilns, 2 of them just disappeared, like completely vanished into thin air. I was so confused. I don't know why this kind of things keeps happening to me, and somehow it got even worse. While filling the kilns, 2 more disappeared. I genuinely don't know what happened. Was it some weird placement issue? Because placing like this works completely fine. If you know what happened here, please tell me in the comments because I am honestly confused. The next day, while harvesting peppers, I finally reached farming level 3. Okay, so here's the current plan. Right now, I'm aiming to craft 35 preserves jars. For that, I'll need 280 coal, 1300 stone, and 1750 wood. I already had more than enough wood and almost enough coal too, but I desperately needed more stone since stone is also required for tree fertilizer, and tree fertilizer is going to become extremely important later in this challenge. So yeah, I immediately started grinding stone from the mines. On day 7, the radishes were ready, and while harvesting them, I finally hit farming level 4, unlocking the preserves jar recipe. Game plan 1 completed. Now it's time for game plan 3, and honestly, you probably already know what it is. An upgraded version of the previous game plan, unlock the keg recipe. Although technically this isn't really an upgrade because fiddlehead fern juice actually sells for less than pickled fiddlehead fern, but kegs are way easier to mass produce, which means I can build a lot more of them compared to preserves jars. The only problem is I need farming level 8 first. Anyway, the next day I crafted all 35 preserves jars and placed them around the farm, and honestly at this point there really wasn't much left to do, so I started skipping days, mostly just harvesting crops, collecting oak resin and waiting for green rain so I could finally start farming fiddlehead ferns. Skip to day 13, I reached farming level 5 and chose the tiller profession, obviously, because it affects fiddlehead ferns and it's also the only path towards artisan later if I manage to hit farming level 10 in time. Now here's the thing about green rain. It can only happen once during summer and only on these dates, the 5th, 6th, 7th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 18th or 23rd, and naturally the earlier it happened, the better things would be for me. So can you guess when I got it? Yeah, the last possible day, summer 23rd. But before that, I also had farming level 6 on day 19, unlocking the quality sprinkler recipe, although at this point it wasn't really useful anymore. And finally on day 23, the green rain arrived. I immediately started chopping trees and clearing weeds to collect fiddlehead ferns and most importantly mossy seeds. Now quick study time. There are 3 exclusive trees that appear during green rain: type 1, type 2 and type 3, and type 3 is the most important one because that tree drops fiddlehead ferns. So let's just call it the fiddlehead tree. Now all 3 of these trees can actually be grown outside the green rain using mossy seeds. That's exactly why I needed a lot of mossy seeds so I could later grow fiddlehead trees myself and farm fiddlehead ferns consistently. Now there are 3 ways to obtain mossy seeds. First, shaking green rain trees gives a 5% chance. Second, chopping green rain trees also gives a 5% chance. And third, breaking these giant weeds can also drop them with, you guessed it, another 5% chance. So I basically did all 3 methods at once and ended the day with 8 mossy seeds total. I also reached foraging level 8 from the green rain itself. I also collected 457 fiber, 236 moss, 25 mixed seeds and 12 mixed flower seeds. Both of those seeds are going straight into fall planting later. The next day I started by putting the fiddlehead ferns into the preserves jars. Then I cleared out an area specifically for planting fiddlehead trees. Now here's another important trick. You see this green seed? That's the one we actually want. That seed grows into the fiddlehead tree, aka green rain tree type 3. The other seeds belong to type 1 and type 2. When you plant a mossy seed, it randomly becomes one of those 3 types. So what we're doing here is repeatedly removing and replanting mossy seeds until we get all green ones, just like this. Then I fertilized all of them, and fertilizer is extremely important here because a fertilized fiddlehead tree only takes 5 days to fully grow. Meanwhile, a non-fertilized one can take anywhere between 13 to 17 days. Yeah, I actually tested this beforehand with 10 non-fertilized fiddlehead trees in a separate save before starting the challenge. The trees started growing the next day, and during the following 2 days, I slept super early because thunderstorms were happening and I absolutely did not want lightning destroying my trees. On day 27, the pickled fiddlehead ferns were finally ready. I refilled some of the jars and ended up with 35 pickled fiddlehead ferns total. Harvesting corn and peppers also got me another farming level, which means I had reached farming level 7. Just one more level left before unlocking kegs. I sold the pickles through the shipping bin, and right now my goal is to craft 50 kegs. For that, I already have enough wood and oak resin, but I still need a lot more copper and coal for smelting ores. So I spent the rest of the day doing exactly that, and I ended the day earning my first gold of the run, 8050 gold. Honestly, not bad at all, although it's summer 27th, but hey, let's stay optimistic. And that's how the final day of summer arrived. I took the very first major step toward completing the challenge by purchasing the Joja membership for 5000 gold. It was also the last day for the pepper plants on the farm, although now I also had all these seeds ready for the next season. So let's end summer here because fall is where the real production finally begins. Fall has arrived. The season started with all the fiddlehead trees fully grown, and look at this, they had already started spreading new seeds on their own. So all I had to do was pick those seeds up and place them into a proper layout, although I did accidentally destroyed one while doing that. Now you might think I'm about to chop all these trees down for fiddlehead ferns, but there's actually a much better method. If I chop a fully grown fiddlehead tree, I only get 6 fiddlehead ferns once, but if I place a tapper on it instead, that tree will continuously produce 1 fiddlehead fern every 2 days, which basically means we'll get 8 fiddlehead ferns every 2 days starting from fall 3rd. So yeah, tappers are absolutely the better option here. I also planted all the mixed seeds and mixed flower seeds that same day. On day 2, 19 pickles were ready. I sold them normally and earned 4370 gold. Day 3, the very first batch of fiddlehead ferns was ready. I collected 8 of them and immediately threw them into the preserves jars. Meanwhile, the oak resin production was still going strong in the background, and I was slowly expanding the the tree farm every single day. And while we're here, let me explain the next plan. Game plan 4, unlock the greenhouse before winter, because once winter starts, every fiddlehead tree outside the greenhouse turns into stumps and tappers don't produce anything from stumps. So before winter arrives, I need to collect 35,000 gold and unlock the greenhouse. Day 5, I harvested another 8 fiddlehead ferns and once again tossed them straight into preserves jars. The next day, I harvested the eggplants and sold 8 pickles for 1840 gold. At this point, I had started skipping days, mostly just doing the bare minimum needed for production. I had already grinded almost all the resources I needed. Now I basically just had to wait until farming level 8 to unlock the keg recipe. The next several days played out almost exactly the same. Harvesting crops, harvesting fiddlehead ferns, preserving them, selling them, earning them, and constantly adding more tappers to newly grown trees. Day 10, I collected the final 20 oak resins and removed every tapper from the oak trees, because at this point I already had more than enough oak resins for kegs, 112 in total. On day 12, I earned 2530 gold. The next day, I loaded 16 fiddlehead ferns into preserves jars. I also spent the day collecting more copper because I knew I'd probably need additional tappers later. That day, I sold 13 pickles for 2990 gold, and honestly, the money was starting to pile up pretty quickly, but was it enough to reach 135,000 gold? Stick around to find out. On day 14, I harvested the pumpkins. I was so sure that would finally level up farming, but nope. Fortunately, the next day, while harvesting corn, I finally hit farming level 8, which means I officially unlocked the almighty keg recipe. So with that, game plan 3 was finally completed, and now we could officially begin fiddlehead fern juice production. At the same time, the fiddlehead tree farm was expanding incredibly fast. On day 16, I sold 16 pickle for 3680 gold. The next day, after filling all the preserves jars, I still had 2 extra fiddlehead ferns left over. So I finally decided it was time to craft the kegs. I had been grinding resources for so long that I already had everything ready. So I crafted 50 kegs. I placed them around the farm like this and loaded the extra 2 fiddlehead ferns into them. I also crafted 15 more tappers that same day. On day 18, I sold 18 pickles for 4140 gold. From day 19 onward, I started regularly putting fiddlehead ferns into kegs too, although my first priority was still the preserves jars. Not only are pickles more expensive, but preserves jars also finish processing faster, 4000 in-game minutes compared to 6000 for keg juice. Day 20, I sold 17 pickles, and around this point, I noticed I still had exactly 18 spare tappers remaining, so I decided to keep only 18 fiddlehead trees outside and start saving every new mossy seed for the greenhouse instead of planting them outdoors. The gold income stayed incredibly consistent at this stage. Every single day, I was just selling more artisan products and slowly watching the total climb higher. And finally, on day 24, I had enough money for the greenhouse repair. Now only 4 Joja repairs remained, which would cost a total of 100,000 gold. And considering we only had a little over a month left before the year ended, yeah, that was going to be difficult. Day 25, I sold 14 juices and harvested 44 fiddlehead ferns, immediately loading them into PJs and kegs. PJs is my new short form for preserves jars. At this point, I had also developed this weird little ritual where I had to swing my axe behind every single fiddlehead tree, because the new mossy seeds can hide behind the trees like this and you literally cannot see them unless you hit the tile with an axe. I also decided to finally plant the mossy seeds inside the greenhouse that day, but while doing that, I discovered something interesting. You actually can't plant mossy seeds outside the tillable soil area like fruit trees. They only work on regular tillable tiles, which honestly surprised me. I had no idea. So I planted all 30 mossy seeds I had saved up and they fit perfectly inside the greenhouse. Then I fertilized every single one and ended the day earning 6968 gold. On day 26, I gave my axe to Clint for the copper upgrade, costing 2000 gold. Day 27, it was the final crop harvest of the run. I harvested all the corn, but unfortunately still no farming level 10, which means we officially lost access to the artisan profession and its massive 40% bonus. But honestly, I wasn't really expecting to reach it anyway. That day I sold 20 juices and the fiddlehead farm outside was looking like this. It looked perfect. Just one missing right here because I accidentally removed the tapper yesterday. This was also going to be the final outdoor harvest. From the next season onward, everything would move into the greenhouse. So I harvested 48 fiddlehead ferns and loaded all of them into PJs and kegs. And after filling every single machine, I still had 7 left over. So I made a dedicated chest just to store the extras. And just like that, the final day of fall arrived. I collected my copper axe and suddenly something hit me. If I just let winter arrive normally, every single fiddlehead tree outside would instantly turned into stumps the next morning, which meant I'd completely waste all of the fiddlehead ferns still sitting inside those trees. So yeah, I immediately decided to chop everything down. I'm so glad it crossed my mind at the last second. It would have been pure rage bait otherwise for you guys and for me. But instead of chopping everything normally, I decided to do it a little differently. I crafted 7 bombs and started bombing the trees. And before you try this yourself, always remove the tappers first. Trust me, I learned that lesson the hard way in another save file. So after dropping the bombs, this happened. Yeah, that was ridiculously satisfying. Then I chopped down the remaining trees and even cleared the stumps too, because realistically they weren't useful anymore. And after clearing the entire area, I ended up with 294 fiddlehead ferns total. So I immediately started processing as many as possible and stored the rest inside the chest. And that's where fall ends. Only one season left now and still a massive amount of money left to earn. The final season of the run, welcome to winter. And by the way, I think this is probably the perfect moment to confess something. At this point of the challenge, I still had no idea whether the greenhouse setup would even work or not. I mean, theoretically it should work, right? Anyway, I started the season refilling the kegs and selling 27 juices. And on the first day, the fiddlehead trees inside the greenhouse still hadn't fully grown yet. From day 2 onward, I started storing all the artisan products instead of selling them immediately. I decided I was going to save everything and do one massive sale at the end. The trees were also fully grown by then. Okay, good. The greenhouse setup actually works. So I placed tappers on all the trees and assumed I would start getting fiddlehead ferns again from day 4 onward. Or at least that's what I thought was going to happen, because on day 4 there were no ferns. At first I assumed I had miscalculated something, so I checked again on day 5. Still nothing. Apparently fiddlehead trees don't produce fiddlehead ferns during winter, even inside the greenhouse. At that moment, I was basically cooked. I still needed 80,000 more gold to finish the challenge, and the artisan goods I currently had weren't even close to half of that. So after sitting there thinking for a while, I finally came up with another idea. Not nearly as reliable as the tapper method, but technically still workable. I decided to farm the trees themselves. So I started chopping down the fiddlehead trees to collect the ferns directly, then immediately replanting the type 3 mossy seeds and fertilizing them again so they could regrow later. There was just one tiny little problem with this strategy. I didn't have any mossy seeds left. Yeah, I had already used every single one. So the total amount of fiddlehead ferns I could obtain was now completely limited. At this point, I was basically hoping the artisan products from these remaining ferns would somehow still be enough to reach 80,000 gold. Skip to day 10, I chopped the trees down again and collected another 168 fiddlehead ferns. I also got exactly one mossy seed back from all of that one, but I planted and fertilized it anyway, because at this stage every single seed mattered. At this point I had a total of 404 fiddlehead ferns combined with all the artisan products I already had stored. And honestly, 2 questions were constantly floating around in my head. First, is this actually going to be enough money for the remaining upgrades? And second, do I even have enough time left in the season to process all these fiddlehead ferns into artisan goods? Well, let's find out. To help with the second problem, I crafted 6 more kegs the next day. Yeah, technically I could have made even more processing machines, but I was just too tired at this point. I had already grinded so much during this challenge, I just wanted it to end. So let's settle into a quick little montage. Okay, it's now winter 23rd, and because there were still 4 Joja repairs remaining, I need to start repairing things today if I wanted any chance of finishing before year 2, considering I can't access Joja Mart on the 25th because of the Feast of the Winter Star. So I grabbed every single artisan product I had stored up to this point, 288 juices and 262 pickles. I genuinely had no idea how much money all of this was about to make. I never calculated it, so when I walked into PA's shop and sold everything thing, this happened. The artisan products sold for an insane amount, totaling my gold over 141,000 gold, even more than the original amount we needed. That was absolutely insane. I expected the total to be high, but definitely not that high. So with that, we officially completed the challenge. We completed the entire Joja route using one of the most unpopular vegetables in the game, and while writing the script afterward, I realized there was probably another way to approach this challenge entirely. Instead of keeping the earnings intact, I probably could have used the early gold on buying normal crop seeds. That way I could have reached farming level 10, unlocked the artisan profession, and boosted the profits even more. But honestly, I'm still really happy with how this run turned out. There were so many ups and downs throughout the challenge, and overall I genuinely had a great time playing it. Also, I would like to quickly thank the channel members Miamed, Tapseltaps, Rocksap, and Nikanuk for renewing their memberships. Thank you all so much. Your support genuinely helps me keep the channel going. So yeah, that's it for the video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, please consider dropping a like and subscribing so you don't miss future challenges, and I'll see you in the next one. The next day I harvested, not harassed, what?